Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo. Bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're a part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Today, we talked to an amazing man. He is Louis Gambeski, and he's telling us about Libby the reading dog. Not a storybook, but a real live dog that kids love to read to. You know, one of the first things I think you're going to sense when you meet Louis is how passionate he is about Libby, his beautiful dog, and also about helping kids develop a love of reading and bringing a smile to the face of folks that Libby visits in hospitals and nursing homes. That passion just comes through. And I love it when I get to speak to people who are passionate about what they do. And that's one of the reasons I am loving Solve It. Solve It is a great new podcast that I am producing with our buddy, our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. It's debuting next week right here on the Reading with Your Kids podcast, May 19th. And we're so excited. We are talking to scientists, to engineers, nuclear physicists, astronauts, Grammy-winning composers, and each and every one of them are passionate about what they do, and they're passionate about talking to kids and encouraging kids to use their creativity, their knowledge, their imagination, and their courage to solve problems. It's a wonderful show. You and your kids are going to love it. It's happening right here on the Reading with Your Kids podcast, debuting May 19th. Be sure to catch it. Solve It is coming. Joining us right now from Hilton Head in South Carolina. This is going to be a really interesting conversation. Our guest today is Louis Gambeski. He and his dog, Libby, are participants in a really, really cool program where kids read to Libby. I can't wait to find out more about this. Louis, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here, Jed. I'm excited about sharing some of the experiences we've had with the Reading Education Assistance Dog Program.
So the Reading Education Assistance Dog Program, in a nutshell, this is you visit kids in schools and kids read to Libby?
Yes. Well, based on the dog being trained appropriately, we are certified first of all, as a therapy dog team, and then the additional training was to be involved with the Reading Education Assistant Dog Program, which is sponsored by the Intermountain Therapy Animal Organization, who originated the program back in 1999.
We've talked about just about the value of kids reading aloud, that it's such a great way for kids, especially kids who are reluctant readers or struggling readers. Reading aloud is great practice for them. I know with my daughter, when she was in second grade, her teachers kept on telling me, make sure you read to her, let her read to you. And it's so valuable. But it's also really valuable for those kids, or for all kids, to read to a dog. It's just great practice. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The research is somewhat shaky, but what we do know is this, that when kids read to dogs, they're motivated to want to read again. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that causes this is that kids relax with dogs. There's a lot of research that backs up the fact that dogs relax human beings. Anybody who's a dog owner knows this. You look into the eyes of an animal, especially a pet or a therapy dog, and it releases hormones in the body that make us feel more comfortable. Oxytocin is the hug hormone, the love hormone, and when children are around dogs, they go through this change, which allows them to relax. And some children get very nervous and anxious when they're reading, especially if they have some difficulty, if there's some developmental lags and such. And so the animal really enhances their their comfort level to want to continue to read or to try some challenges that they haven't taken on before. And this really helps parents in their efforts to encourage children to read.
Now, I have to ask, does Libby love to be read to?
She absolutely does. She had to go through, like all therapy dog teams do, a rigorous training which encourages and requires that the dog is able to sit and relax around children. That includes groups of children. You may have kids in the classroom that are shrieking or laughing or giggling or getting generally excited about especially their presence in the classroom. And the dog needs to have been trained to sit and stay and be comfortable. And Libby does that as well as all the other therapy dogs that are involved with the reading programs.
Yeah. Well, I know I have Augie the doggy here in the studio. Augie always has my back. He would not be, without a lot of training, and I don't know if there's enough training, he would not be a good dog for kids to read to, because kids make him crazy. He's very nervous around kids.
Well, not every dog is suited to be a reading dog, but every dog has a purpose in life. Yeah. It's just a matter of finding where they fit in and what they're comfortable doing and what's in their DNA. Mm-hmm. You may have an overactive dog that's really hard to train or is a challenge, and in a service situation, that dog may end up being a great bomb sniffer because the energy level's really, really high. And that's what's suited for that dog. And other dogs could be a reading dog and they sit and they stay and they're comfortable. Libby needs exercise, every day, just like most dogs do. She's a Cane Corso, so her DNA includes, a background of herding, mm-hmm. hunting, and especially when they're young, they need to have the exercise. So I try to have plenty of exercise under her bib before we go to the school. I mean, certainly if she's had a session, we go right to the beach or to the park and we get her to play. So it's sort of like energy that's pent up, and it's a matter of controlling it or funneling it.
I'm interested. Now, you mentioned service dogs, therapy dogs. We also hear emotional support dogs. Mm-hmm. I hear emotional support porcupines and horses and all that kind of stuff. Can you tell us the difference between a service dog, a therapy dog, and an emotional support dog?
Yes, I absolutely can. So one of the things that we love to do above and beyond the reading session is we speak at high schools, usually to the health education students, about the healthful benefits of dog ownerships and the many jobs that therapy dogs can do, but also the differences between therapy, service, and emotional support dogs. So service dogs are specifically trained to have a task, and they are protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act. So they have federal protection. They have to have the most type of training, and you may see these dogs being used by people who are blind or people who are in wheelchairs. And the training is very expensive, and there's many organizations throughout the United States, including Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind and Vet Dogs, both of which are on Long Island in Smithtown, and they're trained to work with people with disabilities. The therapy dog is a dog that has no specific protection from any federal law, but is required to have training in order to have appropriate and behaviors that allow that dog to be around children and adults. That training usually comes from the American Kennel Club, which would include the Canine Good Citizen certification. This is training which allows the dog to sit, to stay, to come, basic training. It's behavior. I call it behavior 101. And once that dog has that type of training, and it actually technically does not have to be from the AKC, but they have the most recognized program, then the dog would go through a therapy dog training program, and there are a number of organizations, one of which is the Alliance of Therapy Dogs. Another one would be the International Therapy Dog Association, and there are some others that are local, but that certification then allows that dog to be, quote, certified as a therapy dog. There's a registration, and usually with registration, there's insurance that's included. That's important when you think about it, because the society is very litigious, and the dog needs to be protected as well as the library or the school, wherever you may take the dog. Last but not least, there's the emotional support dogs, and that's the category of animal, not just dogs, that's had the most amount of controversy. That's the type of dog that you might have seen in the news, where there's an incident on a plane. Those dogs do not require any type of training. In order to be designated as an emotional support animal, the person simply has to have a letter from the doctor or a psychologist that indicates that they have to have that animal in order to be calm, in order to deal with anxiety. So that has caused problems, because some of those animals have not been well trained, and it's caused problems, especially in airline situations. And what you see now is airlines putting their own rules in, requiring the animal that's coming onto the plane to have some type of certification with their behavior, in order so that they are covered in terms of their liability. So you're seeing a lot more happen with companies, specifically airlines, in that regard. You're gonna see some changes down in the next few years, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some state or federal legislation come down the pike in that regard, because there've been enough problems with that. But therapy dogs are a different category, as well as service dogs.
Yeah. I agree, and I've been a pet owner, been a dog owner my entire life, and I know the value of dogs, and I know that you can definitely have a bond, but I think there's a place, and as much as I love my dog, I wouldn't think of bringing him onto an airplane with and sitting him down next to me and expecting people to just kind of deal with it. I think that's a little.
I've been a dog owner my whole life, and it really blows my mind to read some of the stories that we see in the papers online, and I think people push it, and they don't necessarily always take other people into consideration when they are accompanied with their pets. But the companies and or the government are going to probably improve the situation.
Yeah. I think that would be a good idea. I love you. You have an education background, so you're not just somebody who decided one day, I get some time in my hands, I'll take my dog around to, have kids read to them. You're an experienced educator. You were in the classroom, I think, for over 30 years, and then you were a coach. So you have a background in this. You see the value of this type of program.
Absolutely. I mean, the child benefits, and the family will benefit, and it's a great way for a parent to support the family's effort to help the child improve with their reading. It can be a challenge for parents, and every little trick can help. So for a parent on a Saturday afternoon or an evening to take their child to the library where they have a reading dog program, it adds to their bag of tricks. It produces a great deal of enthusiasm for the child. What might have been a hesitancy turns into a new experience that the child embraces, and the parent is usually within proximity, so it's not as if you're dropping the child off and leaving the child. Sometimes the parents will sit a couple feet away. Other times they stay in the next room. Mm-hmm. But it's something that the parent is sharing with the child. The child becomes a tutor of sorts, in that the child's reading to the pet, and the magic is they're helping the animal, and that is a very powerful transition. So what starts out being a kind of a remediation for the child turns into, well, I'm helping someone else, and is a transition, and that's really powerful.
Yeah, it really is empowering. That whole thing where kids suddenly have the confidence, like, I've been struggling so much and people have always had to help me, and now it's all of a sudden like, whoa, I get to be the helper. I get to be the one that this dog looks up to. And that's a tremendous confidence builder, if nothing else.
Oh, it's great, and it's magic. You can see it in the eyes of the child. You can see the parent observing this and lighting up, and the dog is loving it at the same time. So there's a lot of dynamics there that it's very hard for a person to understand until you've actually experienced it. Mm-hmm. It's like trying to explain how much fun a roller coaster is. It's great to explain it, and you can get a sense, but until you get on that roller coaster, you don't understand how much fun it is.
Now, Libby also does some work in hospitals. What kind of work do you do when you visit hospitals?
Well, all of the visits are suspended at this time. Right. So there are no visits by any dogs that I know of anywhere, but we might want to talk about virtual visits in a little bit. But in better times, we visit Hilton Head Hospital. And in the summertime, when we're in Pennsylvania, we are on volunteer staff at Geisinger Hospital in Scranton. During those visits, we're very much a traditional therapy dog team, where we either visit patients, but believe it or not, the staff gets almost just as much out of the visits as the patients, because it perks up their day. It may be a monotonous type of routine that's going on, and the presence of the dog perks up everybody, not just the patients. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Yeah. I've my daughter is in the music business, and she told me a story of there was a band, and the lead singer, they had been on the road forever, like years on the road, and one night the lead singer just broke down, and they actually had to bring in puppies to get the singer out of the dressing room and on to the next town. Dogs are really magical in that way.
Yeah, and it's interesting that as much as we say it's magic, it's very much biochemical. Science has now proven that there are biological changes that we go through when we're in presence of a dog. I mentioned oxytocin, which is the hug hormone, the comfort hormone, but there's also a stress hormone, cortisol, that is related to tension and anxiety. And what happens with the presence of a dog is the cortisol levels go down. There are a number of studies that have been done that absolutely prove that. So that the person that you mentioned, in the band who had a bit of an anxiety attack, absolutely benefited from the presence of having those puppies around, and not just in a magical way, a biological way. Mm-hmm.
Hey, if somebody wants to know more about the READ program, and maybe either to get their kids involved in it, maybe there's a librarian that would like to add this when the lockdown is lifted, or maybe there's folks out there who have a dog and are looking to do something together with the dog, where can folks go to find out more about the program?
That's a great question. And the answer is, you go online and you can I would go to the source. The source for me was the Intermountain Therapy Animal Program, because they're the ones that originated the program. There's probably some local or regional programs, but they are the originators of the program. You go online with them. There's a way to contact them. In the right-hand side of the menu bar, it says READ. And READ, of course, stands for Reading Education Assistance Dog, and you click that on, and they'll give information, which will include clicking on zip codes that will allow a person to get first-hand information about how to get involved.
This is wonderful. I'm really excited about this, and I'm so happy that you've had a chance to come on and tell us a little about. Is there a place where we can see a picture of Libby?
Absolutely. Well, I've been using LinkedIn, and we post usually once a week, and we've done a number of postings. And I usually post, for example, the announcement of our podcast today. I included 2 pictures of Libby, one working with children and the other one at the hospital with me. So they can go right on there. And I had some funny pictures, too, where we sent Libby on a treasure hunt at the supermarket. And we had to find the elusive toilet paper, and she did a great job. So we have a picture of her striking gold at our local supermarket.
We've had so much fun speaking to Louis Gambeski. Louis, thanks so much for sharing your story and sharing Libby's story.
I'm glad to be on. I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. And a quick shout out to all the healthcare workers and first responders that are keeping our sick and our people healthy, and also shout out to all the people that are food service workers and delivery people that are allowing us to stay safe at home.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Alexis Marie Chute. She'll be returning to the show to let us know about her beautiful new book, Inside the Sun. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a great children's book, I bet you're frustrated right now, especially if you're looking to launch a new children's book. Here it is. It's May. You're excited. You were planning to get out there, have a big book launch, book signings, book readings, school visits, and none of that's happening. And it doesn't look like any of that's happening in the very near future. In fact, when book signings and things like that start happening, they're going to be limited. You're not going to be able to have more than 10 or 20 people at a book signing or a book reading. And so how do you get out there and let people know about your book? Well, we have a great program. It's called the Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read Program. Now, one of the great things about this is that basically we take a look at your book and give it a seal of approval. If our panel believes that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a certified great read. And with that status comes a number of fantastic tools that can really help families know that your book is worthy of their consideration. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Author Services button at the top of the page. You'll be able to find out all about this great program. Lots and lots of authors love it. Lori Orlinsky, who is a 2-time Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read author and an experienced marketer herself, she really loves the program. She says it gives her a lot of confidence when she's talking to people about her book. Check it out today at readingwithyourkids.com. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Louis Gambeski. Be sure to check out that great reading program. Also want to thank my team, starting with my amazing producer, Fatima Khan, my awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank Augie the doggy, who has my back here in the studio. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. But most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And thank you so much for making the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.